Hi, I'm Dave Travis, the Director of Strategic Counsel to Pastors and Church Boards. I've got a couple facts for you right now about why I think right now is the best time ever, or at least the best time in 2 decades, to raise money for ministry and mission. So first of all, looking back to the beginning of the pandemic, this is the path of our GDP here in America. And we had a very short recession. We now know that for the most part, it was a V shape that bottomed out in June of 2020. And ever since that time, our GDP is growing. In fact, the state of the economy now is better than it was than before the recession related to the pandemic. We also have this other shape involved with the recession. It's what they call the K-shaped recovery. And we know that 20% of the people in America actually profited or did better financially through the pandemic season than they were doing. So 20%, their financial assets went up. About 20% of the people reported in a survey that their financial situation was worse. Here's what's also missing, though, in a lot of context there, is that it really was a K-shape, and that about 60% of the people said they were doing about the same as they were beforehand. What that means is about 80% of the people either did well or doing very well. I'm going to get more to the 20% here in just a second. Here's the next set of diagrams. This also happened during the recession, and this happens almost in all recessions, is the income of many people stayed the same, but their expenses dropped. During the peak of the pandemic, we had people that weren't spending money on vacations because they were isolated at home, or they could not travel. They could not spend as much money on eating out. They did spend a little bit more on groceries, but all their other expenses dropped. Expenses for clothing, soft goods, hard goods, durables, all dropped. What that led to was this gap of assets or of income, which led into their checkable accounts. At the beginning of March 2020, there were about $19 trillion in the US in what is known as demand accounts or checkable accounts. These include your checking account, your savings account, any money market funds, anything you could write a check on it and have it immediately. Today, at the end of July, there was about $39 trillion in those accounts. In other words, we have doubled the amount in those accounts just over the last 15, 16 months. People have money in their accounts to give right now. Not only that, if we look at the markets, the equity markets, such as the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is a small segment, but is an influential segment, we saw the Dow drop and then bottom out, but then begin to grow again. In fact, in the last year, just the last 12 months, since last August, the Dow Jones is up about 24%. Look at the broader market, the S&P 500, the 500 largest companies in America. We saw that drop, but then continue to grow again. In fact, 12 months, again, last August to this August, it has now grown 29% over that period. What that means is people who have money in the markets feel wealthier. They have more money in those investments than they had before the recession. We did have the short-term trend as well, where, like most recessions again, people cut their debt, their consumer debt during the recession. They pay down their debt. That has begun to rise a little bit now. However, people still aren't spending as much as they were before to service debt. On the good news side, which I did try to mention, we've seen child poverty drop during this recession. Part of that's been due to government support. Part of that is due to full employment that is coming back to our economy very quick. We went from about 15% children in poverty, we're down to about 11, and it keeps dropping. And some of the new child tax credits and child tax children support payments are going to help that continue to drop. What that means for, by the way, the other thing that's happened is home equity in the past year is up about $1.5 trillion. This is the amount of people that, at least on paper, that their equity has grown in their own homes. And additionally, we have reported that IRS and retirement accounts are at record highs. They've never been this high before. Part of that's due again to that market growth. And part of it is people just saved more during this recession. Here's what this means. It means there are more dollars are available to those leaders, whether you're a church, an organization, a Christ-centered nonprofit, that have a meaningful, plausible, and relevant story, a vision for the future to tell their constituencies. People have money to help you fund your next chapter. Should it look different than the last chapter? I think it should. Finally, just so you know, I do have a service that I call Story Crafting for Strategy that I help churches with here at Generis. We also want to help you have a great year in, as well as your next generosity initiative. There are many generosity consultants on the Generis team, also on our total advancement team that can help you there. But if you need help with strategy planning, please let me know. Dave Travis at generis.com. I'm the Director of Strategic Counsel for Pastors and Church Boards. Thanks for listening.